Mr. President, your team, all of whom conspired for this evening, Mrs. President, Your Royal Highnesses, who chosen to honor me with your presence on this evening, my colleagues, my students, my teachers, some of them absent. Let me begin by saying that I bring you greetings from Abu Dhabi, from where I've just more or less just arrived, from a festival of African theater with emphasis on women dramatists, very often a neglected section of our endeavor. Let me begin by confessing, and I think you know this, that I accepted this honor with mixed feelings. First of all, I'm notorious for having criticized so many appropriations, personal appropriations of public monuments by some of our past leaders, in which we end up, everything is named after them. I think I would, at a modest, even generous estimate, say that about 25% of monuments, whether they're buildings or roads in particular in this country or whatever institutions, are well and truly deserved. I haven't been guilty of saying that other people do not merit this kind of monumental dedication. And then I have to stand up in public and watch my name being put up as yet another appropriator. It just didn't sit very well on me. But by the time I thought it over again, no, I mustn't forget, one of your predecessors, I actually challenged him in public in Abuja, I must mention this. I said, you're supposed to be, right in public there, you're supposed to be the figure of probity. And yet, you're now occupying a space. The main road towards which is named after one of the most brutal and venal rulers we've ever had in this country. How do you justify that? Of course, he just looked at me and smiled and went on with his own business. I only mention that as one notorious instance of my approach to this, to naming ceremonies, naming events. However, by the time I looked at the history of theater in this country, and I think of my predecessors, Hubert Ogode, Dola Dipo, Fiberissima, the very little known and recognized and celebrated opera composers, operatic composers. Think of Akinyuba, also musician, composer. Think of Akbavot, another one. By the time I looked at all of them, and I said, well, somebody has to carry the can. And if a group of bankers have got together, using some of my money also, I bank with them after all, in order to honor me, what's wrong with that? I said to accept it. I also had a personal reason, nostalgia. I remember this building when it was first erected during a military regime. I think we called it the General's Hat because of the shape of the roof. There's, of course, in the conception, very little of what I call the African architectural intelligence in it. In fact, it was an uprooted structure, which the then Commissioner of Culture saw when he went to, I think it was Bulgaria, and it was not a real theater, it was a Palais de Sport, where people parade in honor of power and then do a bit of athletics, just to show that they're bringing in the people. I took one look at it and he said, I'll take that. but make it 1.5 times the size, because Nigeria is bigger than this country. And that's how this building came to be. All right? Still, we said, we'll manage it. And we had Festac 77 in this very hall. This very hall is a different hall, completely. It's nothing like what that building became over the years. Degraded to such an extent that when Lagos was celebrating 50 years anniversary, and we looked for a hub, a center of activities which will be taking place elsewhere. One of the places we visited was what was here, which is now transformed. I took one look at it, and when the governor and his team wanted to come back and take a second look, I said, you go without me. I said, I've advised you, get somebody secretly, plant a bomb, blow it up. You know. Mabel, I said, it was not just a desert, it was a slum. And these bankers have got together to make me eat my words. Well, if eating one's words produces a morsel like this, then it's a very tasty set of words. And I want to thank you and congratulate you for doing what I considered and pronounced impossible. And there's another reason why I thought I should accept. Well, I was already ambushed anyway. They'd announced it as usual behind my back. As MK Abiola would say, they shaved my head in my absence. But still, I would have raised a squawk. But then I decided, this building owes me. It owes me. And one of the reasons, one of the debts, was that this building nearly electrocuted 2 of my actors. That is how decrepit it had become. The roofs were leaking, so there were pools of water everywhere. And of course, there were electric wires also. I hate to say it, almost as if they were deliberately attached to those pools of water. And I nearly lost 2 of my performers here when we came to perform Camwood on the leaves. So that was definitely one debt it owed me. And when shortly after that, I think when a group of artists came to see me in the office, my borrowed office in Lagos, and they said, we want you to come with us, to join us. We want to protest. It seems as if some business people, that was the first attempt, wanted to take this over, and we think they shouldn't be allowed. I said, better go and prostrate yourselves and thank anybody who was foolish enough to want to take over that place. Just go away, leave me alone. But again, I think that created a challenge to the banking consortium, because this is a different group. I think it created a challenge. So having thrown out that challenge and having it picked up, I decided, yeah, I'm owed. I'll accept it. But the greatest reason, however, was a very personal one. Over the years, I've discovered that I'm not really real, that I'm a bit of dramatic creation by some anonymous artists. Everything around me seems to involve drama. If I speak, it's drama. If I don't, then other people say it's drama. I mean, how many people here, for instance, I've just announced that I just flown in from Abu Dhabi. Look at the coincidence. This event timed for a festival of African theater. To how many people timed for an event which was happening so many thousand kilometers away, involving this very kind of occupation? That kind of coincidence is not very usual. Then I was going to another festival just a few months ago, virtually on my birthday, as a matter of fact. And something happened to me. I mean, how many of you here can claim to be kidnapped at 91 when going to a theater festival? So that's another unique factor. So I think these bankers did some research, looked around and said, you know, this character is really a dramatic piece of work himself. Let's name it after him. And then they also thought, I mean, especially the artists around them, they said, well, if theater dries up, if these writers, directors, choreographers, and so on, if they run out of material, if they run dry, all they have to do is say, look at that name, go and create some theater around them. They don't have to work very hard. So having taken into consideration all these factors, I decided, well, maybe I may as well. After all, it's one thing it doesn't cost any money for you personally. Your name, it's already given to you. So if people want to borrow it, even without paying royalties, it's okay, they can have it. So finally, and in all seriousness, I want to thank you for this honor, those of you who've been involved in it, including your president, who's a great conspirator. You know, he knows how to lay ambush here and there, but it's okay. This netted yet another victim, and I want to thank him. And for all those who will be using this hall, let me remind you that I merely represent the preoccupation, the commitment of others like Hubert Ogunde. I've already mentioned some of them, and not merely in this country, but outside. Names like we bandied around quite recently, Bernard Dadi from Senegal, Sonny Labutansi, Wiri Leaking, a woman, that's a woman's name, by the way, let me start, from Cameroon, many of you would not have heard of. And my hope is that with the recreation of this building, this institution, we won't be going all the way to Abu Dhabi to watch African theater. Thank you very much.